So thank you for joining us this morning for the searching and for references in stress-free bibliographies. My name is Alberto Garcia. I'm the academic skills librarian here for Wolfson College. And today we're going to talk about basically how to make some search strategies. So I think before we get started, I'd like to get a sense of basically what are some of the things that you struggle with when you are searching for resources. So you can put your answers into the chat. And we can just kind of get a sense of where we're at and what are some of the things that we're currently struggling with. So I'll give us about maybe just 1 or 2 minutes just to kind of pop down some answers in the chat. Yeah, so we start to get some really good answers coming in. So, for example, how easy to find resources that are relevant. And I think that's often sometimes a big struggle, finding relevant resources on a search strategy. Yeah, the transition from background reading into a more focused search for literature. Organizing searches, yes, definitely. Sometimes we can often conduct multiple searches on the same series of search terms. Getting the right information from resources, yes, that's also a really good, another really good answer, and it's often very difficult. We have perhaps maybe a couple more coming in, and then we'll move over to the next slide. But yeah, all these I think are really common issues. It's that really trying to find that transition over to getting relevant and useful resources for the purpose that you're trying to conduct the search. So moving on, I think what we're describing here a little bit then is a bit of a search anxiety. And as I said, it's related to some of these answers that we've been giving, because it's easy to feel somewhat overwhelmed by the amount of options. You may have remembered from your induction week going through library databases, searching iDiscover, and I think we threw a number out that it was almost like 1,600 databases. The University of Cambridge is a copyright library, so it has a copy of every text that's printed in the UK. So when you have this immensity of resources, sometimes it can feel almost like instead of having more choice, you can be somewhat overwhelmed by it. Not knowing to start is also another big problem. And I think that goes down to the selection of what's the right resource for you. Feeling unsure what the options are. Do we have access to certain databases? Do you want to be looking for example, journal articles, ebooks, is open access, feeling unsure how to best conduct a search. How do you go about going that search, making a proper search strategy? And I think the main message we want to come out is that's completely okay to feel like that. We're not born knowing how to do these wonderful searches and things like that. It's something that's learned, and I think that's something we're going to try to cover here a bit today. So the objectives for the workshop is we're going to go through basically how to create a search strategy for your topic, and basically looking at that in terms of trying to find for iDiscover catalog and one database. We're also introducing something this year, thinking about generative AI and how it might be useful for developing a search strategy. Then we're going to look a little bit about referencing. So how do you find your reference style for your subject? We're going to look at a reference management software like Zotero and show you basically pretty much this demo, what it can do, how you can set up a library, how you can use it to write and cite. That way you're also giving proper attribution to your sources here. So developing a search strategy then. Really, when you develop a search strategy, it's how you're going to undertake the search for the information for the relevant topic. So it's important to kind of spend some time initially in this initial stage to plan out how you're going to go about making the search strategy, and you might want to think of it as a type of investment in terms of your research process. Ideally, there's two stages for this. So the first stage is identifying search terms. And these are the terms that are going to be more relevant to basically answering your question. It can be found in the writing prompt, and these will really help you kind of conduct your search. And then the next step will be combining those search terms in a way so that they get the best results from a search engine. So let's look at defining your information need. So once you've decided on your topic, you'll need to try and kind of translate it into a language that a search engine can understand. And this will go about in terms of identifying key concepts to your topic that you could use for search terms here. So for example, if we go to my slides are not switching over. We can look at this example here. How much does deforestation contribute to fires in the Amazon? What are some of the key terms that might pop out here in this kind of question? And if you want to pop them into the chat, that would be good. If we were going to do a search, what are some key terms that we might be able to pull out? Yes, very good. Deforestation. Yeah, we've got fires, Amazon, some logging, forestry. Yes. Deforestation, fires, Amazon. Very good. Yes. Fires in Amazon. Yes. And so when we look at that, almost all of you have gotten the proper terms. Yes. Looking at fires, deforestation, Amazon. So these are the type of things that if we were going to conduct a search strategy, we would ideally want to probably start here. Yes, Nikhil is giving some very good other examples: land clearance, displacement. Yes, using and to include. Yeah, so I think we've got some really good. We've got a good foundation here. So I would maybe like to take maybe 1 or 2 minutes for you to think about basically your own research question that you're dealing with right now. So could you put it into a question like this? And then just at this moment, that's all we're going to do. Just kind of come up with your research question if you have. I'll give you maybe 1 minute because I didn't ask you to prepare this. But yeah, come up with a search question because we're going to have a bit of time to practice here. I'll give you 1 minute. And then we could maybe have a reaction or something like that once you're done. That way I can kind of know to move forward. So about 1 minute. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we got some questions coming in. Okay, if we just kind of wrap that up, you don't have to pop them into the chat. That's completely fine. But just to kind of get you to start thinking about basically the type of question that you would like to think to have a search on. So once we have basically our research question or a search question, we want to start thinking about alternative terms for phrases that could be used in the search. So you're going to try to capture all the different terms that people might have used to refer to things that you're searching for. So some things to consider. Think about technical language, basically different spellings, abbreviations. So if you're using, for example, the term for butterfly, what might, for example, be the scientific term for butterfly? If it's something that's very subject specific, that's a very technical term, think about that, or how other fields and interdisciplinary fields might be using that same type of term. So some places that you could look at are, for example, an online encyclopedia or a thesaurus. These are excellent sometimes for showing also see, and they give you a list of other possible terms. Google Scholar is great as well because it can also help you find related searches. It also provides a series of other alternative search terms. You can also use keywords that you can find on academic databases such as Scopus, and we'll show that a little bit how that looks like here in a bit when we demo searching in Scopus. Now, there is a way of searching called Boolean searching or using Boolean operators. And this is the type of second stage of trying to create a good search strategy. So thinking about how to combine these terms here. Now, I realized that when I brought this term out, this is a very American term, search idea of peanut butter and jelly. When I got here to the UK, I realized it wasn't something that was necessarily used. So just bear with me. But it kind of is meant to illustrate the main Boolean search term operators, so like and, or, not, and what each one kind of does when you put that in a search string here. So you have here in the example, you can think of it as this type of overlapping circles. So and will bring back all those search results that where peanut butter and jelly are together, and you can see it's nicely shaded in. If you use or, it will then bring a search, basically it will widen that search quite a bit more. So it brings back everything that has peanut butter, jelly, or peanut butter and jelly, and not basically is it this type of excluding thing. So you're really just limiting it to that one search term here. So looking at a bit more of a practical example then, if we come back to our earlier question, how much does deforestation contribute to fires in the Amazon? We can start with the term, for example, deforestation. You can see I came up with a few alternative terms here, such as logging, forest degradation, clear cutting. Now, if I was going to conduct a search in a database, I might combine a couple of these. So if you can see my example here, I looked on the right-hand side, deforestation, or logging, or clear cutting. And now I'm expanding outwards. So I'm looking and fire and Amazon here. Yeah. So I'll demo this a little bit in Scopus here. So let's see if I can stop sharing. And now I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. So remember, to get to Scopus, you can go to your databases here. Going to come down all to the right-hand side. So Scopus really already is somewhat set up to kind of help you do that Boolean searching here. You can always just add a search field here. Don't necessarily need to. So you can do, for example, deforestation and fires and Amazon, and you can see our search. Now you can see that we brought back 513 documents here. And nice thing about Scope is that you can kind of really narrow down those results. So I can narrow it down by date range if I wanted to here. I can narrow it down by subject area. So looking at environmental science, agricultural, social sciences, the type of articles, is it the type of document that I want? Is it an article? Is it a book chapter, a review? And this is a way to kind of narrow it down. Looking further at the left-hand side, we can also narrow it down by language. So is it important that, for example, I'm trying to find researchers in their own native language, in Portuguese, for example? We've got some other keywords here, and this is something that's quite nice because I hadn't noticed this before. But you can also filter it by keyword, and you can see that these are other words that you can use in your search. So if we were going to, for example, pick an article here, now, the nice thing about a database is that it can also link out to other articles that are important, that it has in its database and that are related to your search. So you can see here on the right-hand side, it's got related documents. And again, just off of browsing the heading, you can see it's something that might be interesting. Forest fire hazard zoning in Mato Grosso state, Brazil. Forest fire risk zoning for the metropolitan region of Curitiba, Paraná. And you can see that it also has basically another language in there. Now, the nice thing is, like I said, if you were looking for reading the abstract, we can see that we've got some of the keywords in here. Amazon, the forest, the deforestation, forest fires here. So it looks like it might be something that's interesting. But the nice thing about databases as well, so as I was showing you where you could find other keywords, is the authors have also provided keywords. So if you're thinking about alternative search terms, this might be a good way to find those type of alternative terms. So you can see, for example, the author has used environmental sustainability, fire monitoring, fire prevention, the index keywords that the database has given, biome, deforestation, fire management. So that biome was an interesting one I hadn't thought about. So if I were making my list, then I might actually consider that, put that aside, maybe do another search to see what those type of results might yield in that. So this, as I said, this looks like a pretty good search. Good result. As I said, we can also limit that. So if we just wanted, for example, articles, we could bring it down into the English. Also, another thing, have publication stage, final articles in press, so 512. Affiliation, if that's really interesting for you as well, you can see where your authors are affiliated. Funding sponsor. If you're looking at particular funders, that might be something that you can also exclude. But let's go ahead and just limit that to what we've got so far. And you see we brought it down to 400 documents. So there, as I said, there are ways to kind of, okay, if you're overwhelmed by the amount of results that you get, you can limit those type of searches. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here when we go a little bit further down the presentation. So I'm going to stop presenting here. And I'll take any questions if you have at this time, or are we okay? Yes, please. Okay, Aggie.
Hi, it's probably quite a rudimentary question. Just, I haven't heard of Scopus. Is it just a database, just like Ovid or?
Yeah, so Scopus is one of these huge databases like Web of Science and JSTOR, and they have a nice conglomeration of other journals that they have in that database. And often it's often considered one of like the big three of databases. So Web of Science, Scopus, and JSTOR, which is you can get a nice fairly wide general search on those type of databases.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I'm used to obviously things like Ovid and PubMed, but I guess your use of Scopus and the example you gave was almost, so if the first stage is sort of considering the search terms, the second stage Boolean, and then Scopus just widening out that understanding.
Yeah, and I think sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the databases that you're mentioning are much more subject specific to your field. And so those may have access to other sources of information that a wider database like Scopus might not have. So that might include perhaps some type of government information, or basically ministerial information, and really stuff that's quite focused in on the health sciences.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you think would, I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think that irrespective of your field, using something like Scopus as almost to go before you get even more specific into one of the more technical databases, would you
Mm.
use that as something, would you
I
see
I
what?
think Yeah, I think it's a good starting point to get started on a general search. It will kind of also be dependent upon basically like how focused you want to start in on first, right? Or if it's a database that's been recommended by your discipline. So if your discipline says no, start your search, I think you really want to start more focused in, for example, on PubMed. You might want to start your search there. But if you're trying to have widen your search a little bit more and see what might be available on the outside, I think it's a good option to kind of look there as well.
Perfect. No, got
Yeah,
it. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yes, Nikhil. Yes, please.
Uh, just following on from that, you mentioned not only Scopus but Web of Science and JSTOR. I guess for a thorough slash comprehensive review of potential literature, you want to be cross-referencing across all three.
Yes, yes.
And
I
then,
yeah. Sorry. Go
sorry,
ahead,
go on.
please. No, please.
How does that overlap with iDiscover?
Yeah, so I think when you do a search with iDiscover, you can get you have that radio button that has online. Let me just bring it up really quickly so I can see. Yeah, articles and online resources, right? And so you would probably get um, a big search result on the type of articles that are available through the databases. But you'll also bring back, for example, online book chapters from ebooks. You will bring back ebooks themselves. So yeah, it will be dependent on the type of resource that you're looking for. I think more Scopus, JSTOR, and Web of Science are just much more article focused places. So if you're really looking for that, I would start there.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, those three provide sort of academic literature articles, whereas iDiscover will also include grey literature, I suppose.
Yeah, it might include, for example, theses. It might include, for example, book chapters from ebooks that have been digitized, or just ebooks themselves. So, and I think just looking really quickly. Let me just run the search here. Oh, let me actually just share my screen because that would probably be better. Let's just have a look at that. Let's do an advanced search. Let's keep it at any fields for right now. And let's move to articles and online researches. Oh, okay. We have to start again. Yeah, so here we've got 1,357 search results with that search string there, which we did. Here you could, I guess, limit the search here by articles, subjects as well. Author, creator, languages. So again, 20, similar to that. We've got a lot more English, but also probably because we're bringing back stuff from electronic legal deposit, which we can access unless you go to a special computer in the library. We've got also an online book. So I said the net is a lot more wider, I think, with iDiscover. And I just get a personal sense that you can also have a bit more control over the parameters of your search using basically Scopus or Web of Science. And you don't put some, just as I said, some things that we're missing here from a database search are that those keywords that also are available using something like JSTOR. Hopefully that how does that answer? Is that your question?
No,
Answer your question?
it does. I know through our university accounts we can get on Scopus. Can we also do that with JSTOR and Web of Science as well?
You can, yes, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just get back. Let me resume where it was. Yes. Okay, so while we were looking at Boolean and we're looking at those search, there are a couple of other tips that you can use as well when you're searching. So there's the use of phrase searching by using quotation marks. So if you have two words together, such as the example here, looking at clear cutting, if you wanted search results that brought back clear cutting together, it would be good to put those quotation marks over them because that only would bring back results where these two words are put together. Leaving them without quotation marks, you might get results that, for example, get clear or cutting, sometimes clear cutting together, but then you have to kind of go back and really filter and do a lot more work with that. There's also proximity searching, which tells the database to look for terms that appear near each other. So for example, if you use the W/3, so sustainable W/3 tourism, it would bring back results where these two keywords appear within 3 words of each other. There's also truncation, and this is where you put an asterisk at the end of the stem of a root or the root of a word. So for example, if I'm looking at deforest and then I put an asterisk there, it would bring back articles or results where the words deforesting, deforestation come back. And this is just telling, telling the database to kind of bring back, look for all those other variant endings after the root. So once you've started doing results, it's important to start keeping track of your results, because I think one of the most frustrating thing is that when you don't keep track and you start running the same search over and over again, and sometimes that might be beneficial if you're doing a basically comparison across databases, but you want to be able to do that intentionally rather than unintentionally there. So on our LibGuide, we have a search grid. And this is one way to kind of keep track of your search strategy. So as you can see, we've put it here on question. We've got search term 1, the keyword, and you can go horizontally across, and this will show you the type of variants or alternative terms that you have been using. And you can go then vertically down to see what other search terms you have used to kind of expand your search. So just looking at how that looks there. This is back our old question. So how does deforestation contribute to fires in the Amazon? You can see I've used, again, deforestation and fires in Amazon, but now I've added those alternative terms horizontally across the first line using clear cutting with phrasing or logging there. So again, as you begin the search, some other things that you want to be able to do is basically to refine the approach a bit further, is to set the scope for the specific search. So as I said, I showed on Scopus, you can do that through a variety of ways. You can do it by limiting the time frame, by limiting the language, by limiting the document type that you would like, even the subject area where that might be helpful. Also, you might want to think about clarifying your research question. So if you are getting so many results back, let's say you're looking in 1,000, is it the research question that it's a bit too wide and perhaps you need to refine it a little bit more to get to the really essence of what you're trying to ask? Also, as said, considering factors such as output format and the management strategy. So, as said, is it looking for example, journal articles? Are you looking for this type of grade literature? Are you looking for books? Are those important things? And then how are you going to keep track of that type of information? So now we're kind of looking at generative AI for literature searching. And I know this is perhaps one of the big hot topics over the last year and a half, 2 years, is what is the role of generative AI in education, and how can you use it? How can you use it ethically? The way that I think that we advise in our LIP guide is that it can be used ethically to some extent by basically clear prompting and using it to kind of help you with your search process here. So there's an important framework that's developed by Professor Leo Lowe, and he talks about it as the CLEAR framework. And this is more directly for prompting when you're using large language models here. And it's broken down into, for example, concise, logical, explicit, adaptive, reflective, and just going a little bit more deeply into that here. So under the concise for the CLEAR framework, concise prompts basically remove the type of extra information that allow AI language models to focus on the more important aspects of what you're asking it to do. And this kind of results in a more relevant and precise response. So for example, what we have here, use more concise and explicit prompts, such as explain the process of photosynthesis and its significance, instead of can you provide me with a detailed explanation of the process of photosynthesis and its significance. Instead of requesting, please provide me with an extensive discussion on the factors that contributed to the economic growth of China during the last decades, use a concise prompt, I think as he recommends, identify factors behind China's recent economic growth. So it's just kind of really trying to make it much more, what are you trying to get at in that prompt? Looking at the logical, again, they emphasize the significance of staying on the type of logical flow in order to the ideas within the prompt. So this type of logically structured prompt enables AI models to better comprehend the type of context and relationships between the concepts that you're asking it to look at. And this also comes out with more coherent outputs. So the example here, list the steps to write a research paper, beginning with selecting a topic and ending with proofreading the final draft, is a logically structured question. A logically structured prompt could be, for example, describe the steps in scientific methods, starting with forming a hypothesis and ending with drawing conclusions. So you've given it the type of parameters to help it look at and give you a response. Explicit prompts also provide a type of set of precise instructions regarding the desired output, format, the content, or the scope, thereby reducing the likelihood of receiving unanticipated or irrelevant responses to the AI model. So we've got the examples here. Instead of tell me about the French Revolution, an explicit prompt would be provide a concise overview of the French Revolution, emphasizing its causes, major events, and consequences. So you're really asking that language model to kind of provide, it limit its responses to look at those specific things there. The other example, rather than prompting, what are some renewable energy sources, opt for a more explicit version like identify 5 renewable energy sources and explain how each works. Sometimes basically prompts might not basically bring back the desired responses that you're looking for. So the A in the CLEAR framework, the second is basically you have to be adaptive. And that means that much like the search process, it's going to be iterative. You'll have to try, for example, sometimes various prompt formulations, phrasing, looking at the settings to establish a type of balance between the language model being creative or how concentrated it gets in. So we've got some other examples here. If an initial prompt, such as discuss the impact of social media on mental health, elicits responses that are too general, consider a more focused and adaptable prompt, such as examine the relationship between social media usage and anxiety in adolescents. So you've really, as I said, you've given it this type of parameters. And in much sense, it's a little bit like looking at the type of search questions or research questions that we did at the very beginning, or more towards the beginning of this workshop, is how do you kind of look at the keywords that you're wanting to get results on. And also the last R, reflective. It emphasizes the significance of trying to continually evaluate and enhance the prompt techniques that you're using. So again, we have the example here. After receiving AI-generated content on the benefits of a plant-based diet, evaluate the response's accuracy, relevance, and completeness. Use insights from evaluation to refine future prompts, such as asking for more specific benefits or focusing on certain aspects of plant-based diet. And I think that's also really important if you are going to use a type of large language model for this. I know they have improved significantly over the last year, but the onus is still on you as the researcher and the student to kind of look at the accuracy of the results that it's giving, or how relevant they are. There have been many cases where students have come to us and looked and said, we're trying to find an article, don't really find it. We have a look, we don't really find it either. And then when we follow up with a question, where did you get this? It's like, I've used this AI tool for basically suggestions, and I just kind of went ahead and looked at it. So there are those things that where even though AI is still is improving, you still have to go back and check and see if actually this is something that really exists there. So I'm going to show you a little bit of one AI tool that I use, which is basically Claude, and I've used it with a search strategy. So let me stop sharing here. So Claude is another type of language model, just much like ChatGPT. But here's the type of question that I've asked it. So I said, hello, Claude, I'm researching the topic, how can researchers use generative AI for research/scholarly writing? Notice I put the quotation marks where I really want the model to focus in on. Please help me to identify key concepts and terms relevant to the search, including synonyms and keywords. So there I am. I'm giving it some clear parameters, Boolean search strings, and any other information that may help me form a strong search strategy. So yes, it says right here, key concepts and related terms. We've got generative AI, synonyms, related terms, large language models, AI language models, natural language processing, machine learning, ChatGPT, neural language models, foundation models. Under research scholarly writing, synonyms, we can see here, academic writing, scientific writing, research papers, academic manuscripts, so also research applications. So then since I've looked at basically how can researchers use, it's brought back some of the other research applications that we could use. So literature reviews, data analysis, research assistance, and it's giving me some suggested Boolean search strings here. So it's suggested it's even broken it down into basic, more complex, which is quite nice. Generative AI or large language models or LLMs, and academic writing or research writing or scholarly writing. A more complex form here, we see generative AI or large language models or LLMs. You can see it's really kind of expanding out with the alternative terms, and academic writing, or, and again, much more wider with its alternative terms here, research writing, scholarly writing, and research or methodology or workflow. So some of the things I might use, I might not actually use this last part here just to have a check. But as I said, this is the part of searching where it's a bit much more experimental and iterative process here. Additional search strategies, and it's given some of the things that we repeated here. So thinking about time frame considerations, it has suggested focusing on recent publications, so 2022 to present, due to the rapid developments. Consider setting up alerts for new publications. Consider key sources, so academic databases such as Scopus, Web of Science, preprint servers, archive, RXIV, bio RXIV, academic journals focused on, and it gives us some of the subject areas that we might want to look at. And also suggested additional search angles that we might want to consider here. So overall, I mean, I said, as a first go, this is something that's promising. It may be something that if I'm trying to put together a search strategy, I might want to start looking at some of these key terms and see what it returns. It probably, as I said, wouldn't be my only tool that I use, but it is perhaps just another tool that might be helpful if you're stuck, if you need some type of basically inspiration. This is a perfectly, I think, valid ethical way to kind of use AI to kind of help you in your research process here. Okay. Are there any questions at this point? Let's get back into present at Teams. Okay, so I think no questions at all. So we will go ahead and you'll have a try yourself, I think, at this point. So if we take maybe about 10 minutes, I'd like you to look at that research question that you wrote down towards the beginning of this this workshop, sorry, and have a go at basically using Scopus, Web of Science, or iDiscover, and try to see how that searching process goes. See how it's going for you. Some things to remember: using alternative terms. If you've thought, check for keywords in articles. If you're using a database, find a match to see if they match with what you're looking for. You can have a practice at going in at phrase searching, truncation. So this is just a little bit of an opportunity to have a play with the search and the tools that we have here at Cambridge. So we'll take about 10 minutes, and I will turn off my camera at this point. That way I'm just not here looking over you on the screen. So 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. And if you have any questions, you can just pop them into chat. I'll be right here on the other side of the screen. Okay. All right, if we kind of bring our searching to a close here. And how did that go? Any hiccups, any observations or anything like that? You can also type in the chat if you like.
It was just nice for me just to familiarize myself a bit more with libguides online. So
Okay.
when I come to the library, I usually grab handfuls and sort of give them to my peers as well, and find them really useful. I usually like the paper copy, but it was just nice just so, I literally started from first principles. So I went to LibGuides, I found the search grid, and just, I think for me it's sometimes maybe taking a step back rather than just rushing into PubMed or rushing into Ovid, just
Yeah.
taking a step back and being a bit more systematic with my process. So it's that's been helpful, and just sort of, if when Alberto's not here, just remembering that the excellent sort of resources on the Wolfs and Lib guides as well.
Yeah. No, I think I think that's quite nice. Yeah. Sometimes I think we build up our own habits of how we search for things. And it's always good sometimes to have just a step back and kind of get back to the basics and approach it. And sometimes it can help us see things in a different way that we had just completely overlooked because we get into a type of automated process. So yeah, that's really nice. Thank you. Like any other questions or observations? Okay, so we'll move on then. To just recapping what we've kind of talked about. And I think the big thing, it is okay to feel anxious about the searching process. It can be overwhelming. It's helpful to kind of take a step back as we've talked about it. But also thinking about developing a search strategy can be helpful. And they're thinking about two steps. So identifying the search terms and then combining the search terms. Also keeping track of your results can be really helpful. So those type of documents that we have on our libguide, the search grid, can be one helpful way to do it. And don't forget phrase searching, truncation, and other type of the tips that we've covered, which we'll also share with you when we send out the recording here. So we're going to move on then to the next phase, was just thinking about your references here. And if you're familiar with Zotero, and this is the point that you want to go ahead and step out, that's completely okay. But we are going to cover Zotero here in the reference management section of it. So just thinking about reference management, if you are not familiar with it, why is it in such a good tool? And I think one of the big things is because it helps you keep track of your references and all the type of information that you're using for your research. It's easy to import bibliographic information through plugins and web importers or browser plugins. If you already have some PDFs that you've downloaded, you can just drag and drop them in, and it will pull all the information from those PDFs and create the reference for you. You can do that also manually, so it gives you that flexibility to use a plugin or to insert the type of sources that you want manually. You can export it to Word or LibreOffice. And we'll show a little bit of how Zotero integrates into Word, so you can then do this type of write and cite function. So you can create citations, bibliographies. It is completely free. And I think that's the most important thing for us, that it is open source and something that you can keep on using even after your time here at Cambridge. And so I'm going to do a little bit of a Zotero demonstration. So you could go to zotero.org, and we have the steps of how you can download it on our Wolfson College LibGuide. But I'll stop sharing here. Share my screen. So what we have here is Zotero. And ideally, when you download it, you will land on your library page, and it will be completely blank. But you can see that once you start entering resources into that, it starts filling up. And the nice thing about Zotero is that you can then also break it down here on the left-hand side. You can break it down into folders. You can see different type of projects that I'm working on. I also have my Zotero practice folders here. So even it can be as small as a type of extended essay that you could break it down into sections if you're trying to organize your information, or if you're working on a larger research project, you can break these down into chapters or subsections here. To do something like that, you would just have to press this manila folder here, and you could enter, for example, Zero 3, and you create a new folder, and you can see that the folder is blank here. So all the information here that I've put in, I've broken it down, that reside in my folders, are also found in my main library. So you can think about the library, as I said, the main repository for everything that you have. And this is a great way to kind of organize those resources into particular projects or chapters, depending on how you want to break it in here. So the nice thing about Zotero, as I said, I'm really evangelical a little bit about this, because I was the type of person that I would basically write, have all my resources around me, and then at the end of my writing, I would have to kind of trudge and get to kind of creating a bibliography from scratch. And I often found myself dreading the bibliography because I often thought it took way much more time than it needed to be, sometimes almost more time I felt than writing. But then at the end of the writing project, you just, there's something you don't want to deal with. So when I found this, I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And really what sold me was the ability to just create the bibliography really quickly. So I've got a couple sources here. If I select all of them here, and I press a right click, and I will say create a bibliography from items, it pop-up window comes up, and you can see that you have a variety of different styles that it supports. So you have the APA, Chicago manual style in the author date or full note section. You have Harvard as well, Modern Humanities Research Association, 4th edition, MLA. You also have Vancouver. If you need more styles here, you can put manager styles and get additional styles. And then what you get what you get is a pop-up for all the other styles that Zotero can support. You can see some of them are journal specific, so they've matched up to journals. You can also limit this by whether it's an author date or note type, or by certain fields. So we look at, for example, perhaps humanities. You can see some of the universities that have put in, when you hover over it here, it gives you an example citation and how that might look in the bibliography. They also, that we've got, I guess, another journal or manuscript here. So that's one way to add. Once you click on it, then it would be added to this page right here. So that becomes one of your default options that you can select. So I just want to go, for example, for American Psychological Association. I press OK. I'll open my Word. And Control V for. Let me just try that again, maybe messing around. So create bibliography from items, bibliography, copy to my clipboard, press OK. Then OK, so let's try this again. Save. I have to love technology sometimes. It's going to close that. We will go back to Zotero, open up a Word document. Blank document. Let's try these here. Yes, there we go. So we've Control V, and it spits out the bibliography in the style that I liked here. So I've got it's alphabetical. The information's there. Sorry. And so yeah, I think that's one of the key things that sold me with Zotero is that I'm able to, once I enter all the information in here and I've organized it, you can see on this right-hand side, it's got all the type of information that I would need for a bibliography. So one moment. Sorry, there we go. I just had to clear my throat. So we've got the title, information of the author, the publication place, publisher, and date. And once you have that in, you can create a bibliography quite quickly. So some of the things then to think about is then how do we enter information? So once you download Zotero, let's go back to iDiscover. And let's say we're going to click a book on to Cambridge. Now, one thing that you'll notice that once you have the plugin, Zotero changes. So it's detecting the type of source that you have here. So you can see I didn't have it here. It's got it as a type of web page. What this middle folder here is showing that there's multiple sources of information here. And if I were to click that, it would give me the option to select the sources that I have right here on this page and import them. But I don't want to do that.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, Alberto, to interrupt your flow.
Not
Do
a
you mind
problem, no.
going back a brief, just to the beginning of this step where you were hovering over icons? I was trying to bring up iDiscover. Do you mind just doing that one more time? There was a particular icon that you were talking about, the plugins with Zotero, I think.
Oh yeah. So so for me, I have it here listed right here on top of my.
Right.
I'm using Google extensions, and so this will change here to kind of, if I were to click that, it would read everything that I have here on this search page right here. So it's giving the list. If I wanted to import directly from here, I could do that. But if I select the book, then notice the icon changes to a book right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will go changing as long as you have it open in the background to read the different type of resources or that you have there. So with Zotero, when you want to import it, you want to be able to make sure if you've broken it down into folders like this, you want to be on the folder that you want that resource to go into here. So here I'm doing Zotero Practice 3, which is the folder we just created. And I'm going to just use the plugin. It's telling you where it's going to. And here it shows that it's got the information that it's taking. So if we go back and check that, it should appear right here in our Zotero, on our folder that we have here. Now, one of the things I will mention is that when you do it like that from the iDiscover catalog, it comes across like this. You can see the title, The Cambridge Companion to Frankenstein / edited by Andrew Smith. And that's because what Zotero does is it's bringing across basically the name of the title here, like this. So when that happens, The nice thing is that you can just edit it really quickly, a bit like a Word editor. Here, you can see that it's brought it across Andrew Smith's editor. We don't want that. We can create here Smith and fix that. Fix that. And so now we've got all the general information that we need for bibliographic reference here. I know it takes perhaps just a couple of less than a minute to kind of just check it and fix it. But I think, as I said, I would think of it as a type of investment that once you've got it in there and it's correct, you don't have to worry about it again. So that gives you that peace of mind that the minute or two that you've taken just to kind of just confirm this, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, for journal articles, it does do a better job here. So let's see, let's just go to, can we apply this filter here? Let's go to actually proper database. So for here, I'm going to use JSTOR. So we have, for example, this article here. So notice that the icon changed again here. We want to make sure that, that we're on practice 3. That's fine. So then we click that. And what you'll notice here is that it's saving the information and it's also downloading the PDF for us here. So we come to check here and you can see it does a bit of a better job with bringing across the information without necessarily needing any type of adjustments there. And to find the PDF, you can press this little drop-down button and it's right here. Also notice that it will tell you that there's a PDF attached to it here. And I think that's just another benefit about Zotero here is that it also acts as a type of PDF reader that you can use. You can read, you can take notes in here. You can highlight. And you can see basically the annotation that you have here. You can actually make notes. So if we want to add an item note here, and let's see, you want to do some writing, or you want to add this highlight, you can basically add it to the note. You can see that it's cited it for you. It's imperfect here, so we'd have to go back and basically adjust it. But for the sake of time, we can just see that that's how it looks like. And then just to kind of show how that works here, the other option is that when you download Zotero, it will have the plugin. So this is what we've been talking about here. So it allows you to do writing and citing as long as you have Zotero open in the background. So this looks like this. I want to add my citation. Again, it will give me the same option. What type of style do I want? I think this is fine. So press OK. And you get a pop-up here. Let's go with this. Let's go right here. You can click there. period. And we can add another option. Now, if we wanted to add a page number, we would add right here. We can add the page number. And then what we can do is we can add the bibliography from the sources that we're entering through Zotero here on our Word document. So we just add edit the bibliography, and it starts to create the bibliography for us. And I think that's a really quite nice function because it makes sure that you don't leave out any of the resources that you're referencing while you're writing. And if I still need to keep writing, we can still work with just adding a reference. And you can see that it goes updating our bibliography for us. So this is, I think, a really good function, especially if you're getting started on your research, to start building in these processes of setting up a library, being able to be sure that the references that you have in there are correct, so you don't have to worry about them again. Once you've got Zotero set up on your Word document to be able to write and cite, to get this information so that way there's a nice seamless transition to it. If you have, as I mentioned, if you had PDFs already that you've downloaded in your research, you can. Here's one that it's my test folder for Zotero that I downloaded earlier. I downloaded it from Scopus, and so I'll just drag and drop it in there. And you can see it takes some time to read it, but it's pulled out all that information that was held, the metadata that was held in that PDF, and it's created the reference for me. So this is the title, just so we can see. This one, we can compare it here. So we've got the title here, Assessing Fire and Safeguarding Brazil's Biomes, a multifactorial approach. We've got our authors here, and it's got the list of the authors here. It's where did it come out in Theoretical and Applied Climatology. We've got it there, volume 155, issue number 9. The pages, just want to make sure that we check the pages, but yeah, 8815, you can go through. The date, if we needed to adjust the date, if we say we don't need the month, we could do that. But for the most part, yes, it's brought it across quite well. So if you do have PDFs, you can just, I said, drop them off in there, and it will start setting up the reference for you, drawing out all that information that's there. Okay. See, anything else that I might have missed? Any questions on your part here? We've got about 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions. I see some typing coming in on the chat, so I'll wait here.
I was just going to say, just like you did with the first half, it would be nice just to have a play with Zotero and then to review, because that's how sometimes some of the issues that people are having with Zotero can come out. Just to have like 5 or 10 minutes playing around with it, and then any questions, if any issues in terms of creating a bibliography or citing.
Yeah,
obviously
sorry, go ahead. Aggie, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, but it's just 10 minutes left, so
yeah. So let me drop in the link on our LibGuide. So I will pop this into the chat, and this is the link to our Wolfson College Lib Guide on reference management, and there, towards the, say, about the middle of the page, you'll see something called Zotero how-to videos, and there it gives you a step-by-step. So obviously, yes, you'll have to download it, and you can have a play, and then Laura or myself are really happy to sit with you after you've downloaded it, and or even if you just want to sit with us while you download it and have a bit of a play yourselves, we're happy to sit with you and walk you through the stages. That way you have an opportunity to play around with it and see, as you said, Maggie, if there's any issues that are popping up. That way we can adjust it there. We've had a question, let's see. So depending on the quality of the bibliographical information, especially with website news, articles, internet, it feels that Zotero produces incomplete bibliographical entries, not due to Zotero, but because of the original source. Is there any way to have greater confidence in such cases in the accuracy of bibliographical information generated by Zotero? Or is manually entering missing information the only way to ensure accuracy? Yeah, so I think especially when there is a lack of that type of information, or for some reason the way that the website has been set up, or it doesn't bring across all that metadata, it is really important to kind of, as I said, look at the resource that comes across into Zotero just to double check it. And if there is missing information, then probably the best bet would be to go in and manually add it there. And that would be, as I said, that's part of the way of ensuring the accuracy of the sources that you're going to have in there. Unfortunately, I think, at least from what I know, there's not a greater way to kind of ensure that source is accurate if Zotero is not picking up that metadata from the web page or the article that you're looking for, just because for a variety of reasons that might be much more complicated, but it's just not getting it. Take those first couple of minutes to kind of look over it and add any information. And I said it is part of that investment of building a more accurate and reliable library for you in the future. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, yes, please. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, so I think we've come to about I guess a settled end for the workshop today. As I said, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it interacting with you today, and hopefully you were able to get something from the workshop. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Laura, and we'll be happy to answer them. Or if you'd like further support, especially if you start having to download, you start downloading Zotero and having to play around with it, and you'd like a little bit much more guidance, please do feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but as I said, thank you for coming, and look forward to seeing you for the rest of the term, or the rest of the year as well. So I'll just stop the recording right now, and if you have any questions afterwards, we can have a chat.